Alright, what's going on everybody? It's your boy. Now, this was originally going to be two separate videos, but I felt like I'd be cheap, just kind of farming vids or something like that, and I just didn't want to do that. So this is just going to be a little bit of a longer video. It's all about Megumi. I want to scale him. I want to make sure that we understand kind of where he is in the hierarchy. If you're new to the channel, I drop a lot of JJK, a lot of Chainsaw Man, some Berserk here and there, Dragon Ball, Naruto, whatever. So, if you like that stuff, you should stick around by hitting that subscribe button. I'm just saying, But yeah, aside from that, I want to jump in kind of out of order here. I want to start by talking about Mahoraga, right? So, I'm kind of recording this impromptu because I was researching for a whole separate video, right? And this I felt needed to be discussed for a few reasons. And like I really try to be, I guess try to be as high quality or all on top of being as real as possible. So I'm gonna let y'all know now. I was looking into a whole separate video and I realized something. Mahoraga, this big ridiculous Shikigami that Megumi summons during a fight with one of the weakest things ever, is like actually overpowered, and I think a lot of people don't really realize how strong this thing actually is, and it's kind of fair because we've seen it once. However, we have some crazy implications scaling for all this. So I want to go over that and kind of explain what's going on with that. Now, as far as where this thing is, obviously we see it fight Jogo, or we see it fight 15 Finger Sukuna after it beats up Jogo, or after he beats up Jogo, and then from there we obviously understand that this thing is stronger than Jogo to start. And I won't hear otherwise. This thing whooped on Sukuna way worse than Jogo ever did. Actually, I believe Jogo did not get a single hit on Sukuna entire fight, right? There was zero hope for that thing. Sukuna, on the other hand, with Mahoraga, had just about every trick up his sleeve pulled out at full mass for Mahoraga, right? Now, what this means, obviously, is that 15 Finger Sukuna is, still stronger than Mahoraga because he wins the fight. He's really not, like, scared or anything, realistically. There's points where he's like, yeah, if this was me with, like, 1, 2, maybe 3 fingers, I probably would have lost. Or the sword that Mahoraga uses, he says if I was a cursed spirit, that thing would have took me out. Right? Meaning that even 15 Finger Sukuna, if he was a different type of entity, he would have lost to that. So as far as I'm concerned, Mahoraga is somewhat relative to Sukuna, but he's under Sukuna at the end of the day. And that makes sense because Sukuna is like the big boogeyman of the verse, right? Now, there is another part to this that's really interesting. So right before Megumi summons this thing, he flashes back to a conversation he had with Gojo. And Gojo's explaining why the Gojo and the Zenin family are, on bad terms and always have been, or have been for a very long time. And he brings up how during the golden age of sorcery, a Gojo clan member that had limitless and 6 eyes, like him, fought a 10 Shadows user, like Megumi. And this is interesting because this is the golden age of sorcery. And this means that we basically have a Gojo clone from the Golden Age, which the reason that's so important is that they're always capping saying that like the Golden Age is the height of Jujutsu sorcery. And we know that the Zenin clan and the Gojo clan are generally the highest peak pinnacle, biggest knobs on the block kind of families in the Jujutsu world and always have been, with like 1 or 2 exceptions, I guess, from like the Kamo family. But Kamo family's got like, blood manipulation, which is kind of OP, but realistically 10 Shadows and Limitless is way stronger. So it kind of makes sense that Zenin and Gojo family are way stronger. Aside from that, this is actually coupled with a nice narrative implication that Megumi's used for. Megumi says that Mahoraga was likely used in the same way during this confrontation between Golden Age Gojo clone and Golden Age 10 Shadows user, right? the heads of the clan, they're the strongest people of these clans, likely the strongest people in the Golden Age because of the status of these families that they've always held. That means that the 10 Shadows user realized that the Gojo clan Limitless 6 Eyes user was so strong that he couldn't beat him on his own. So what he did was summoned Mahoraga, right? Now, this is the head of the clan. He's probably a fully realized 10 Shadows user, and what that means is that he's basically Megumi, but like max level, maxed out stats, all that, right? So from here, we realize Mahoraga killed the both of them, because Gojo says these two, the heads of these clans at the time, during the Golden Age, they killed each other, and that's why the families are on bad terms. That means Mahoraga probably killed like a Limitless and 6 Eyes user and a fully realized max level 10 Shadows user at the same time. You know how we know that? It's because the thing didn't die yet. So when you exercise one of these or you kill it, we know that Shikigami they're gone, right? Mahoraga is like a legendary one. We can assume that there's only one of him, unlike the Divine Dogs, because supposedly every single 10 Shadows user gets Divine Dogs when they develop their curse technique, right? That means that Mahoraga not only beat both of them, it means he survived the fight with them and not Sukuna. Let's just start there. Sukuna's kind of a goat. But Mahoraga, if he scales above these Golden Age versions of, you know, the Limitless users and the 10 Shadows users, that pretty much puts him above everything in the verse, minus Sukuna, obviously, because Sukuna whooped on him. And then it might actually put him above Gojo, or at least relative to him, because Gojo's whole thing is not just like some super raw power or the limitless energy he has. It's the fact that he has limitless curse techniques, not limitless energy, obviously, on top of 6 Eyes, and he can use it pretty well, right? But if we have Mahoraga here, and Mahoraga is sitting here and, you know, just running through not only somebody with the same abilities from a stronger age of sorcery on top of the second, or likely second strongest sorcerer of the time, that means Mahoraga can deal with Limitless. That means Mahoraga might have some sort of counter to red, to purple, might even have a counter to Gojo's domain expansion, which would make sense. Mahoraga is like a Shikigami, and we've never seen, like, we don't see things like domain expansions used on like Shikigami like that. Like, and don't get me wrong, this isn't an ass pull or anything. I've reread JJK at this point now 9 times. I've been keeping track. We haven't seen any of them susceptible to any mental attacks, any sort of domain expansions, nothing like that. And Mahoraga, on top of being a Shikigami instead of a cursed spirit or a human, his whole thing is adapting to any phenomenon, as stated by, you know, Sukuna. And Sukuna's, you know, he's the most experienced, like, fighter, sorcerer, you know, cursed user in the verse currently that's still alive, save maybe Kenjaku. And he says that this thing can react and adapt to any phenomenon. So from here, we know that if this thing were to, you know, encounter red in the same way TOJI was, and he gets flung through a couple buildings because he gets hit with it, he adapts to it. Same with blue. Assumedly, same with Immeasurable Void, but there's actually an argument to be had that Mahoraga is not affected by Immeasurable Void. And even further to this, that might mean that he's adapted to other abilities throughout time. So let's go even further, right? They don't say there's a time limit or anything to the adaptation ability of Mahoraga. In fact, they go out of their way to not say that. For the rest of the fight, Cleave and Dismantle, they don't really work on Mahoraga after Sukuna's used it once. So as far as we know, it's possible that Mahoraga might already have, like, adaptation or basically immunity to these abilities now from Limitless and 6 Eyes users. The only thing Gojo might be able to do is domain expansion, and even in that case, he might not be fast enough to get it off before Mahoraga starts attacking him. Now, when I say this, I do want to clarify, Mahoraga's probably not going to beat Gojo because his barrier is probably something that Mahoraga can't get to, so or get through. And I say this because even though Mahoraga can supposedly adapt to any phenomenon, I don't want to give him like a no limits fallacy amp here and say he can, like, if he encounters like, you know, Soulfire Darkside and gets punched by him, he's immediately like immune to Soulfire Darkside, or this thing's gonna start taking out Goku or anything. I think that'd be a little ridiculous. I think there are limits to what this thing can adapt to. And the only adaptation this thing could have to Gojo's limitless barrier would be to get above infinite speed, which I can't even imagine this thing could do. No one in verse can, aside from maybe Gojo. So no, that's not how this works. It's not how it's gonna go. The last thing I do want to say though is I'm probably gonna go over this more in depth, but Mahoraga might be top 5 in the verse. And when I'm talking top 5, I mean like of all time. I'm not talking like currently, none of that. I'm saying he's probably up there with like, you know, Kenjaku, Gojo and shit. Like, this dude is so powerful, and I never see anybody talk about him. And we probably should. This thing is ridiculous. Even though Sukuna, you know, exercised this thing and it's likely gone, we don't even have a statement to say that this is the strongest curse, or not strongest curse, strongest Shikigami, right? So I think we're gonna see some crazier stuff from Megumi. I've wondered for a while if this is why Sukuna was so confused about Megumi running from the Finger Bearer. Because if Megumi had summoned Mahoraga when he first fought the Finger Bearer, nah, it'd be done and over with. And I know this for a fact because we see that Megumi summons the upgraded Divine Dog and just one-shots the Finger Bearer. So with Megumi, I think a good place to start with, you know, power scaling any of this or pointing out how insanely broken he is as a character. We should start with like speed, probably. No, speed, he's at least, you know, Mach 1. He's relative to the speed of sound for a few reasons. Number one, obviously, his fight with TOJI, he reacts to him and combats him somewhat evenly for an extended period. And we know this TOJI is not holding back in any way. He's bloodlusted because he's been revived as a quote-unquote puppet of carnage. And we know that this TOJI is faster than a character named Naobito. Now, Naobito has been stated to be the fastest sorcerer aside from Gojo, and to be just surpassing the speed of sound. And apparently this happens through his innate curse technique, which allows him to move at 24 frames per second. Now, they don't expand upon this ability enough to make it make sense as to how this puts you at faster than sound, so we kind of have to guess as to how this could possibly happen. And instead of just guessing, I put in a little bit of footwork on this just to research. So the fastest punches ever recorded by humans were in mixed martial arts, and they were just around, I think just barely under 45 miles per hour. And the speed of sound is about 761 miles per hour, right? So if the speed of sound is 761 miles per hour, and let's say each one of these frames of Naobito's allows him to throw one punch within a second, meaning that you would basically just take 45 miles per hour for his average punch, times it by 24, and then you would get a number, you know, beyond the speed of sound, right? Therefore, he's above the speed of sound, which it does somewhat make sense in Jujutsu Kaisen. Obviously, they're probably going to work off, you know, these guys at least being peak human level, as most of these battle shonens do. So this makes a little bit more sense. It's probably the most reasonable interpretation for how this guy surpasses the speed of sound. Now, why is this important? Obviously, Naobito was just outclassed by TOJI, still terrified of him. So TOJI was blitzing him, blitzing Dagon, and had trouble blitzing Megumi. He gets him once while he's off guard, but other than that, he has trouble tagging Megumi, meaning Megumi is around as fast as TOJI at this point. So, even further past this, as far as his AP, his durability, I mean, we have his fights with the Finger Bearer to look at first of all. So, it's stated that special grade curses in Jujutsu Kaisen would be able to tank rapid carpet bombing, which, for those of you that don't know, this would be multi-city block to, city level, just depending on how long this goes on and depending on what country basically does it. Now, we're going to lowball, we're going to say it's multi-city block, right? That means that Megumi, with his upgraded Divine Dog, one-shotted that thing. One-shotted a special grade curse, and not really a super weak one by any means. This is a finger bear. I know Sukuna made this thing look like an L magnet, but that's Sukuna, right? So the finger bear is obviously a higher end special curse, and this rule of being able to tank carpet bombing definitely applies to him. So if Megumi can catch you with his upgraded Divine Dog, he's hitting you with a multi-city block attack, 2 city level attack. Obviously, his durability likely doesn't scale to this, and this is probably best showcased during the Mahoraga incident with Sukuna, right? And that's because with Mahoraga can one-shot him, but even before he's summoned, 1 slash from the luck sorcerer, the one that gets cut in half by the end of this, is enough to take him out. So we know that his durability is not some city level craziness. It's just not. So where would it be? Probably about maybe like building level. And the reason I would say that is that when he fought Sukuna, he's actually able to tank being not only knocked through buildings once, but multiple times. And we know Sukuna would be above the special grade curse, the finger bear itself, making him city block to city level. We know he wasn't going all out against Megumi, otherwise he would have killed him instantly. But we do see him actually destroying buildings with his attacks on Megumi. Basically using Megumi as a hammer to destroy these buildings. Meaning that Megumi is durable enough to tank attacks that are directly destroying buildings as they're hitting him. This puts him at building level. Pretty simple stuff on that one. Now, from here we get to the second part of the video, because there's a very big part to Megumi's abilities that make him the actual monster that he is. Most of the scaling is just to get it out of the way. The abilities, the hacks of Megumi are what really put this all together and really make him, kind of solidify him in that S tier. So,